I am Kabbani, and this is the Lighthouse for today's viewers. Today, we'll shed some light about another hot topic. We all know that Libya and the United States have a new relationship after we reviving the old situation. And to know more about this topic and the relationship between Libya and the United States, we have in our studio our special guest, Dr. Hassan Sassi from Libya, to tell us a little bit more about this subject. Dr. Hassan, welcome, and I would like you to introduce yourself for our viewers.
Thank you, and thank you for having me today, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hassan Sassi. I'm originally from Libya. I came to the United States when I was about 24 years old to study here for graduate students. I went to, as a graduate student, I went to school at Berkeley and I finished at USC my doctorate degree in civil engineering. And I'm a practicing structural engineer at this time. Prior to working as a structural engineer in one of the engineering firms in LA, I was a professor at USC for 20 years. And prior to that, I taught in Libya for 2.5 years at the College of Engineering, University of Libya, from 75 till the end of 77, when I came to the United States and joined USC, and I taught at USC for 20 years. Prior to that, prior to going to Libya, I did teach at Berkeley for 2 years, and I did teach mathematics. I am double major in mathematics and engineering. And that's about me, basically. I'll talk about Libya. Libya, as most people know by now, it's in the headlines. It's the United States is reviving its relationship with Libya that existed centuries back. And it's about time that we open the door, both countries open the door for each other to have mutual economic relationships, political relationships. At the time, they have the United States and Libya have agreed to establish two liaisons office, one in Washington, D.C., and the other one in Tripoli, which is the capital of Libya. Just to give you an idea where Libya is. People confuse Libya with Liberia, with Bolivia, with Lebanon. Libya is North Africa. It's centuries old, and there is a map on the wall here. Just briefly go over. Okay, here is the continent of Africa. This is the perimeter of it. This is the Red Sea. This is Saudi Arabia. Iraq is here. Jordan, Palestine, Israel here, Turkey. Okay, but we go back here. Egypt is to the east of Libya, and it borders like 1,000 kilometers, which is about 700 miles. Okay, the coast of Libya is about 1,100 miles, just like the coast of California. It's deeper than California. Its size is about 660,000 square miles, while California size is like 1/3 of that. Its population, on the other hand, the California population with the census of 2000 is like 33 million. Libya only has at this time about 5.6 million people. The inhabitants per square mile in Libya constitutes something like 7 or 8 people per square mile, while in California we have something like 27 people per square mile. To the west of Libya, there is a big portion here, this perimeter of the border here, which is jointly shared by Algeria to the west and Tunisia to the northwest. The south of Libya, okay, which is the sub-Sahara Libya, this is the Sahara, the Saharas. The sub-Sahara, we have Chad and Niger. Niger, or we call it Nigeria. Nigeria is south of it. The Niger is here, Chad. So there is a border of about 1,100 miles that Libya shares in the south with Chad and Niger. Basically, I come from a small city right here to the east of Libya. That's where I was born, raised. Went to school just like 300 kilometers from that city to the west, and went to college to Tripoli, which is the capital. Graduated in 1966, came to the United States in 1967 to do my graduate studies here, and remained here. I've been here for over 33 years or so. I have a family here, a wife and 2 girls and 1 son, and they're all grown up now and they're independent of us. But that's something about me and Libya that I'd like to share with you. The gross national income of Libya is about $35 billion. That's nothing compared to a budget maybe of the, any department, Department of Energy, Department of State, Department of in the United States, that is. The CIA, their budget is a lot larger than this. $35 billion, most of it, about 75 to 80% of this national income comes from oil. Libya is rich in oil. Libya, because it is south of Europe, it shares a lot of heritage. To the north of Libya, this is the Mediterranean. To the north of it, Italy, right here. Malta is a small, island in between Italy and Libya. On this side here, north of this portion of Libya, which is the east portion of Libya, you have Greece and you have Crete. And of course, through the centuries, these two countries, both Greece and Italy, share history, which is ancient. You will see some of the slides that probably we're going to show you today about some of the ancient ruins, which is Roman. And at one time, the Roman Empire, as a matter of fact, was ruled from Libya. The Greek Empire was ruled from Cyrene, which is the east of Libya, right here. And then the Queen Athena, we call her, which was the city of Athens was named after her. It was a Libyan queen that lived and ruled the Greek Empire from Libya. Also, during the Roman Empire, we have few families that ruled the Roman Empire from Leptis Magnet, which is one of the ancient cities of Libya. Libya goes back in history for thousands of years. Libya also was ruled by some Egyptian families, pharaohic families, also some Libyan families, also actually ruled Egypt for a few years, for hundreds of years, as a matter of fact. So in any case, so the Libyan culture is a mixture basically of Arab, Turks, Italian, Greek, and those languages are spoken in Libya. Well, people in Libya speak both Arabic, of course, English, which is a second language, and then Italian. And some families do, because the people some of the families that come from Greece, they still speak Greek. Just to share with you, for instance, the people, the inhabitants of Libya are basically nomad, that they move from one side to the other, across the Libyan, above the Saharas, and then also they live at the seashore of, the oil which is Libya is rich at is this where I have my pointer right here. That's where the oil concentration is. Libya recently, by the help of an American company, Brown and Root of Texas, they discovered an oasis of water, underground water, that existed in the Sahara, and based on that water, the Brown and Root, with the help of I think a Korean company, constructed a pipeline that would pump the water. As a matter of fact, most of it is flow by gravity more than pumping. They have pumping stations along, but it comes from the south here. It goes all the way to the north, about 700 miles of pipeline that runs that carry water from the south to the north because of the need of water here for irrigation and for industry and also for domestic water, like drinking. In any case, the project costed Libya about $30 billion. It's been like 20 years. So the first phase of it is complete, and there are another 2 or 3 phases that they're budgeting about $10 million for it, that it's going to be starting pretty soon. And based on that, I think Libya would, besides having a lot of oil, we also found out the oil exists in the north, the water exists in the south. So that's something that people might not realize. There's a lot of water in the south. There is no water in the north, but there is a lot of oil. Okay, one of the advantage of the Libyan oil is its closeness to Europe. They have the refineries right at the seaports here. Or there is one right here where I have the pointer, and another one at this end here. They have 2 refineries that actually, and now because of the exploration for natural gas, the Libyan natural gas, according to my notes here, amount to 30 billion barrels. Natural gas is the natural gas production at this time is 6.2 billion cubic meter. That's a lot of gas, and most of it goes to Europe. Now they're building a pipeline, 700 miles pipeline from the shores of Libya to Italy. And that's a joint venture between Italy and Libya that they are starting right now to build that pipeline under the water that would run natural gas from Libya to Italy. Libya owns a lot of gas stations in Italy. Something like maybe 5,000 gas stations in Italy are owned by the Libyan oil organization. So basically, that's a brief description of what Libya is. Now, if we go back, would you have a question to ask?
Sure, sure. You gave me an idea about who lives in Libya and the historical things. That means you opened the subject for me to ask about tourism. Now, I guess we'll go and visit Libya.
Tourism in the past, prior to me coming to the United States in 1967, tourism was not a major activity in Libya. Fortunately, they have realized lately, the Libyan people and the Libyan government, they have realized they have a wealth of ancient Roman and Greek ruins and cities, as a matter of fact, whole cities that exist in 3 major cities outside of Rome. The major Roman ruins and ancient cities are in Libya. Outside of Greece, the major city is not in Lebanon, is in Libya. Wow. People don't know that. Okay, and therefore, if we talk about tourism, this is a great attraction for people to go visit Libya. The shores of Libya, the Mediterranean, as most people know, just like the Caribbean, it's fantastic shores. They're clean because of we don't have too many inhabitants in the country. There's only 5 million, as I said. They're scattered all over the place. The shores there are quote-unquote virgin shores. Some of the shores probably never been touched before. Therefore, yes, tourism would be a great potential economic growth for Libya. And hopefully people would look at that. And I think there are some companies, tourist companies and travel companies that are starting to organize 1 to 2 week trips to Libya starting in September. I have a friend of mine that actually owns a travel agency in Seattle, and she's starting a travel tour and trips to Libya starting this September, and hopefully it's going to be as frequent as. And I know that the United States government is encouraging this, that they want American people to go see this place. Of course, Libya and America share heritage hundreds of years back. When the United States Marine landed in Libya, there was a big fight, invasion and things like this. But we still have that relationship, even though it started with some scrimmages. But I think there was some value to it, because we still think that the United States and Libya should and must, I think, establish a good relationship for the benefit of the two people of the United States of America and Libya. And being a Libyan American, I think I would encourage that. I would like to even be participant of opening the door for the Libyans to come over, visit the United States, come study here like I did when I was a student here in California in the late 60s, early 70s. We had 3,000 graduate students in the United States.
Wow.
And these graduate students are in key positions in Libya. And all of them speak good English. They're most of them very well educated, highly educated. They feel great toward the United States and the American people. We have I think, nothing to worry about. The United States government has established a liaison. They're making it easy for people to go and visit. There is a delegation that just came back a couple of days ago from Libya, a business delegation, non-governmental delegation that went, about 9 different companies, including Fluor, Daniel, and an engineering company that I know of, and a lot of other companies that went there for business, to establish business. There are also talk about back to tourism, building hotels, building tourism, cities for tourists to come and enjoy their stay in Libya. Any other question?
So it will be a great investment to start invest our money in Libya and have hotels maybe or other things.
That's a great question, and I'd like to address it as follows. Your question. Libya, being such a rich country, they actually need the know-how, even though they have it. But because they've been isolated for 2 decades, almost 2 decades from the outside world. Only like 6 years ago, when Libya opened up for European investment, American investment is still not there yet. But the good thing about Libya, they really don't need money. They have the money. Okay. They only need people to go and share in building the economy, building the infrastructure, share education, technology. And one of the topics I am really enthusiastic about is how to transfer technology to Libya.
So how it will work? Do you think they will, from Libya, they will hire some engineers or
of course. Yes.
Consultants, or
yes.
They will hire?
Of course.
So
yeah, they did it. They did it in the past, and most of the expatriates that we had actually were Americans, and therefore, they're opening up the door. They just have to be competitive because the Europeans are already there. Okay.
So if somebody is interested, should call you?
Well, actually, the Department of Commerce, and they have, if you could look it up either on their website or get their phone number. I think I should have a phone number here. You could contact them, because prior to going to Libya, you have to request from both the State Department and Department of State and Department of Commerce a request that you want to visit Libya. The Department of Commerce is organizing a trip at the end of November. Okay, from November 29th through December 3rd, there's going to be a delegation from the United States led by the Department of Commerce. The secretary, the Assistant Secretary of State came back, Assistant Secretary of Commerce just came back from Libya in June, and he shared some of his thoughts on one of the conferences we just had in Washington, D.C. in July 14, 15th. We had a conference in Washington, D.C. about Libya-U.S. relationship, and in it, the keynote speaker was Assistant Secretary of Commerce, and he encourages all people, investors, companies to actually go and do work. But in order to do that, you might want to contact them to make sure that they give you the green light to go. You could go as a tourist. It may take some time for you to get a visa. They're working on expediting getting visas to Libya and getting visas to the United States for Libyans to come over. I understand there was a delegation from the universities of Libya that was here July 1st and did their tour in July 20th, led by a friend of mine who is the Dean of Medical School in Tripoli. And they are trying to organize scholarships for people to go to Libya, study in Libya, and also Libyans to come to the United States. They already have 500 students right now ready to come and study in the United States, graduate students.
But that's great.
The undergraduate is covered there, so what they need is to send people for graduate school to study graduate studies, and also at the same time get some high-tech training. That's something they need. I have proposed in my talk in this conference in July the establishment of a Libya Institute of Technology, similar to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, similar to California Institute of Technology. And really my vision is to establish something like Nehru did in India 60 years ago, where he established Indian Institute of Technology, which is considered the best institute of technology in the world. And I'm hoping by such, hopefully, the vision that we could establish something in Libya that would serve the whole area, not just Libya, because Libya, inhabitants may not need such an institution, but to have an institution here that would serve all of North Africa and all deep into the South African continent, with the establishment of the African Union now, which is they are modeled after the European Union. Hopefully that this thing will pick up, and Africa would one day become like Europe, united economically, culturally. We share a lot of things with both Europe and Africa, being in the middle of the south of Europe and north of Africa.
You are also in touch with the whole Middle East, also the other countries.
Of course, because of the heritage, the language we speak, the people here speak, which is Arabic. They share heritage and history from this point here all the way to here. Okay, and this is the borders of Persia, Iran, right? So we share all this wealth of heritage and science and all of that stuff that existed before.
I believe that might help also for Middle East people or Arab people to understand the way United States think and democracy and the things through Libya things. The connection between Libya and United States, Libya and the Middle East will help the whole situation, maybe the whole neighbors.
We hope. Of course, our hopes is for peaceful coexistence in this world. Enough fighting, enough wars. Let's try to exist together. That's really basically.
That's wonderful.
And hopefully, with this peaceful thinking, that we could, people would live together. We have to live together. Otherwise, we don't really have to fight each other. Yeah, so basically, hopefully that would be, establishing something here. I am an educator, so I'm really pushing for education and transfer of technology, basically. And I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved in politics.
No, we don't touch that subject
because politics is for politicians, and I'm not a politician.
Exchange knowledge and investment, that will be great for the whole world.
Right.
So if I ask you after the show to give me the address, maybe you will.
Of course I will.
Okay, so I'll address it after the show.
Sure.
If somebody interested.
I have it with me, as a matter of fact.
So that will be great. What about horticulture and food things?
Agriculture. Agriculture in Libya. Libya produced the following: wheat, barley, olives, dates, citrus, vegetables, peanuts, soybeans. And we also grow cattle, and cattle mainly not cows, but sheep and goats, and because I think that's the main cattle that we have. Basically, we are not. Libya is not self-sufficient. They still import a lot. As a matter of fact, the United States at one time was the main supplier till 1986. The United States of America was the main supplier of food to Libya.
Wow.
Okay, right now they get their food from Europe. Okay, so, but basically they need, they have to feed those people. Now with this water supply that they're getting from the south, they would eventually, when the project is done, and they're projecting maybe by the year 2010, the other phases would be finished, besides phase 1, which is carrying water from the south of Libya all the way to the north. This is going to be 75% of that water is going to be for agriculture.
Wow.
Okay, and they have lakes, underground lakes in Libya, at least 3 major lakes. Each one of them would last 50 years. okay,
great.
for
That's
supply.
great.
So between the three of them, you have 150 years of water supply from the Sahara Desert all the way that would be carried to the north.
So you might help your neighbor, Sudan.
Well,
also.
you know, Sudan actually, they
With
have the
water.
Nile, you know. Libya doesn't have any surface water whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
We have no Nile, we have no lakes, you know. All the lakes that I talked about are underground lakes.
Okay.
Okay, so, but, you know, Sudan has the Nile. Sudan is one of the richest, I think, agriculture and fertilized country in all of Africa.
Wow.
In all of Africa. As a matter of fact, they say about Sudan, this is Sudan here. If Sudan concentrate on agriculture, they could feed all of Africa.
Wow. So the picture what we have seen, Sudan are hungry and...
No, Sudan, you know, well, you know, it's
people.
politics. So
Okay,
I don't want to keep away from that. But in any way, you know, that's basically if people invest in Sudan just for agriculture, it's going to feed all of Africa.
That will be great.
Yeah.
That will be great.
One of the things that we are also missing in Libya is railroads. We don't have any railroads. And there is, I've, you know, asked why we don't have railroads. And at one time, I remember 1967, I was part of a committee that looked into that. And we said, it cannot be done because of the desert. You know, you have to elevate the railroad. You can't just build railroad on the ground, okay, because of the sand shift and all of that. So in any case, but most people said people live at the seashore. The depth from the sea is like 10 miles, and after 10 miles you see nobody. So basically, people are saying instead of using a railroad from that connect, let's say, the west of Libya to the east of Libya, because there are railroads in Tunisia and there are railroads in Egypt, but there are none in Libya.
Okay.
And they, you know, there is no, in my opinion, there is no need for it because we have shipping that go from one end to the other, parallel to the shoreline. So instead of having a railroad that runs from here to here, it's going to be very costly. You already have ships that go from west to, you know, and back and forth to east. So you could take products from Tunisia all the way to Egypt. Libya and Egypt now, they're also, and Italy, they're also thinking of sharing natural gas. So they're going to have a pipeline that runs natural gas to Libya and from Libya to Italy.
That's great. What about the education in Libya?
Education in Libya. This is, it only goes about, let me see, I'm trying to think. I'll tell you, the first engineering graduate, civil engineering graduate in Libya was in 1958.
Okay.
First, there were other graduates in art, in history, but as an engineer, and you know, developing countries need technical people, such engineers. And happened to be my older brother, was the first engineer in 1958. So that's basically what education, he probably, when he graduated from university, he was like 24, 25 years old. So if you could take out 6 years, probably started in early 40s, just after the World War II was over. World War II was over in Europe in 1946, and North Africa was over in 1943. That's the year I was born. So basically, you know, I remember my dad telling me that there was no education prior to the Italian occupation to Libya, and therefore he didn't go to school, but all his kids did. All 12 of us went to school.
Great. That's great.
And I'm proud to say, most of us, half of us probably college graduates. But in any case, so that's really education then. Education now in Libya, of course, Libya has public education, a very good public education, a free education from kindergarten all the way to graduation from college. And if you're good or getting a good degree after you graduate from college, they send you somewhere. You go for your graduate studies.
For free?
For free.
Oh, that's great.
You know, I had 8 years of a scholarship
to
the United States when I graduated from the University of Libya in 1960. In any case, right now, Libya, the way it stands, there is a total of the student population in Libya. There's about 2 million students in schools in Libya. The population of Libya is about 6. I said about 5.6, 5. You know, projection by now, maybe the estimate of 2000 is like 5.4. By now, 2004, they may be like 5.9. So you're talking about 2 million, which is almost 1/3, okay, of the populations actually are students and enrolled in schools.
That's great.
Now, the population of Libya, I have here some statistical data about the age. The median age in Libya is 22 years. Okay. The age structure in Libya is from 1 month to 14 years, is like 34% of the population is less than 14 years old. 62% of the population is less than 64. It's between 15 and 64. So you're talking about maybe half the population is under the age of 25.
Young.
Young.
Yes.
Okay. Half of the population would be something like maybe 3 million, if we're talking about 6 million total population. Actually, the numbers I have here, which is dated 2000, I have 2.5 million between the age of 6 and 24. 2.5 million between the age of school age.
Yeah,
school age. 2 million of those are enrolled in schools. Okay, so there is a shortage of about 22% within that age group that are not in school. Okay, but if you go to between the age of 6 and 14, okay, you only have 3% in that age range that is not in school.
Okay.
And if you take a statistical error of plus or minus 3, you could say it's almost like 100%. It's mandatory, it's compulsory. You have to be in school between the age 6 and 14. Between the age of 15 to 19, there is now an increase in the number of, call it dropouts, people who are not in school, about 17%. Between the age 15 and 19 that are not in school.
Maybe to go
now
to
work. The problem in Libya, you would think maybe they work. Well, obviously not. You know, because the percentage of unemployment in Libya is high. It's like 30%. And this is also 2000 statistics.
So gave up
30%.
schooling.
Now, do you say, well, you know, when it's 6% in the United States, we raise our arms, you know, we say, how could it be this unemployment is unfair? Yes, in an industrial country, with the structure, the family structure in the United States, you have to have people employed. In Libya, because of the family interaction, family structure in Libya, even if you are unemployed, it doesn't show. You don't go beg. You don't find beggars on the street. You don't find homeless people, Libyan homeless people. The family take care of them. So there is a big percentage of kids, if I'm saying kids between the age of 15 and 19, really adults, that probably, which is 17%, they are not in school. And that's really part of the 30% of the people that are unemployed, maybe. Okay, and one of the things I'm going to be looking at is really what are the reasons for people not being in school and how we encourage them to stay in school.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very, for a developed country, you need almost everybody to be educated. The literacy in Libya is really high. Like literacy, meaning people who could read and write, it's like 90%. Okay, for women it's 70%.
Oh, that's great.
That's great for a third world or developing country.
Compared to other countries.
Now you're talking about a small community, 6 million people. So basically, people that between the age of 20 and 24, who are supposed to, between 20 and 24 is supposed to be in college. Okay?
Yes.
There is a big dropout. It's like 40% of those people are retained in school, 60% are out of school. Okay, so what do those people do? That's something I have to find out.
Yeah, question mark.
Yeah, and this is one part of my program, of educational program, is really to train people, to educate them, to lift them up, to empower them, to give them incentives, to, so hopefully this would come about when a team of people like me and others that are interested in such thing, we would go back and try to lift them up.
That's a good goal, actually, for the people around you.
It's amazing, now the class sizes, I have some statistical data that I obtained from Libya, actually. The class sizes in Libya for elementary, is like 20, for elementary school, 25 students per class. Okay, for secondary, 27. Okay, not bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so, there are many schools. The number of schools in Libya, let me see, classrooms, elementary classrooms, there are 48,000 classrooms for elementary students.
Wow.
For secondary school, it's 14,000 classes,
Yeah,
classrooms. Okay, and the ratio is this to that is like 24 for elementary schools. The ratio, student-teacher ratio, okay, which is very important. How many teachers you have per students?
Yes.
It looks good. Elementary school is 6.5 for each 6.5 students. If you know, let's say for every 13 students,
yes,
there are 2 teachers.
That's good. That's good.
For in elementary school, that's one very, very good.
Yes.
For secondary schools, it's 6. For each 6 students, they have 1 teacher,
Also
which
good.
is excellent.
Yes, yes.
You know,
yes.
even in universities here, you don't get that.
You compare,
let alone, you know, elementaries and secondary school.
Yes.
You know, I looked into statistical data for the state of California just to compare, even though we're larger in size here in California. I went to the state of Texas to see, you know, what the school rates, the dropouts. They're very close. You know, the ranges are very close. So it looks like it may be a universal problem.
Okay.
Of this age.
Okay.
Because I remember when my age, everybody was at school and everyone to go for higher education.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
everybody that I know with me that stayed with me in school. So right now, maybe there are other things, other attractions that they do have, but that's our goal, to go survey the country, study it, and come with solutions, hopefully.
Yeah, I would love to hear from you after that.
The Libyan community. I'm going to be speaking in Washington, D.C. On September 30th. Again, we're having the second Libya-US conference in Washington, D.C. I've been asked to speak about elementary and secondary education in Libya and how can we help. And that's one thing that would like to help. One of the things that I'm really encouraging people to is to have an exchange, even for summer schools, people that come here, even for that young age, to share culture, to share language. You know, people. Of course, the English there is the first foreign language in Libya. Italian is the second. When I went to school, English was the first, French was the second. I learned French for 4 years.
Now Italian second?
Well, actually, you know, there is a need. In my program that I'm proposing, I am pushing for more languages to be taught at schools, and maybe people would have option. Number one, you know, most of the African continent, they speak French.
Yes.
Because they were under French occupation.
Yes.
So French is important to be learned. To the west of Libya, all these countries, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Mauritania, they speak French. Besides the Arabic language it's a mix actually. So the Libyans need to have French, and they do have it, except we have to maybe have it at an earlier age, like at 5th grade rather than at 7th or 8th grade. Italian, of course, because of our cultural relationship and history between Italy and Libya, most people speak it. But I speak it, but I don't know how to read and write it.
Okay.
Okay, just by
use it.
Because, yeah, you as a user of the language, we're living with Italians and all of that. So, but the other English is no problem because almost it's introduced at the 5th grade.
Yes.
You know, so that's no problem. They studied. I studied from 5th grade all the way to college.
Yes.
I studied in English. So that's no biggie. The other language that I'd like to introduce is Spanish. Okay, Spanish. There are some countries in Africa, like Angola and Mozambique, that either speak Portuguese or Spanish. Okay, so I think Spanish, also being close to Spain, okay, is very we think, and also for here, for this whole continent of North America, of South America, that most of the countries except for Brazil speak Spanish. It would be nice to also introduce Spanish as a second foreign language, or third or fourth, whatever. Maybe students would have the option to choose from different languages that they would like to.
Actually, the language, it depends on the needs.
Yes.
From time to time, it will be changed, which is first, which is second. I guess in the United States, the second language is the Spanish.
Right.
And maybe within 5 to 10 years, it will be the Arabic language is second or third language for the United States also.
Well, one of the things, since you mentioned
we have to communicate, we have to have the language available.
Yeah. One of the things that I would encourage is really to have even high school students to have an exchange program between Libya and the United States. To have high school students go from here, study for 1 semester, 1 term, 1 year, and vice versa, to have some Libyans to come over here, even the summer session. So something like this hopefully would be worked out.
Yes.
Not only in higher education, I would like to start it at the a younger age.
Yes, that will be good too.
Okay, next.
So what about role of Libya and the Arab American to help improve American-Libyan relationship?
Could you repeat the question, please?
The role of Libya and Arab American.
Oh, the Arab Americans.
To help improve American-Libyan relation plan of action.
Good, great question. You know, we have, the Arab Americans here are a big number and a big asset because they mostly came here, most of them, if not came back, generations back, but came here to study, and they maintain high education. I know a lot of people in medicine, in schools and universities, and that's where their help can be meaningful, is when we do organize, let's say, a trip to go back. I would like to include some of the elite, if you don't mind, the elite, the intellectuals of the Arab American community to go back and, first of all, study the situation. Second, maybe we could come back and have a program for a joint program between the United States and Libya to improve the education and technology in Libya. We have plenty of people, prominent Arab Americans in the United States that are in leading positions technologically. Okay, and they are independent, they are scattered all over the place. There are some organizations that they were in the past, such as the Arab American University graduates, that has been revived again. Through such a vehicle, maybe we could utilize such an organization to help, you know, relationship between the United States and Libya. It would be a fantastic, I think, opportunity for those individuals who, like me now at this age, where you grew older and you want to give more to the society, to humanity in general, not only to Libya, and you know,
yes,
wherever
yes.
it is.
Your experience.
I know that there are people that talk about doctors without borders and attorneys maybe without borders, and I say maybe we should have teachers without borders.
Yes, absolutely.
Where we could go and teach anywhere. Just,
absolutely.
You know, put a tent, put me 40 students in one tent or one shack, and I could, you know, share my knowledge and know-how. And I know a lot of people like me would do that.
It's a great idea too. It's a great idea. Okay. What else you like to talk about?
There is something that we talked about earlier, art,
yes.
Art and culture. Well, you know, being from that part of the world, you know, you hear about maybe people do hear, I'm not sure, about Egyptian art and, you know, maybe Lebanese art, Jordanian, but nothing about North Africa.
Yes.
North Africa somehow, it's because of colonization maybe, you know, we remained under colonization for many, many years. Algeria was under colonization under the French for 135 years. So their culture was not known. They have great culture, they have great art, music. As a matter of fact, when I grew up, I wanted to be, as a matter of fact, an artist, a musician. I played the drums and, you know, things like that. But, you know, basically, art is a universal thing.
Sure.
You find it everywhere. So people, by birth, by nature, by talent, you know, they're artists.
Yes.
Okay, whether it's in music or in paintings or in performance, you know, or whatever. But if you talk about art like music, we have, you know, Libya is a mix of nomadic, like gypsy type, you know, art, plus African art, plus, of course, European art. And at one time, during the 50s and 60s, we were exposed to a lot of American culture and art. So when I grew up, I was, you know, an admirer of James Dean and Marlon Brando and Elvis Presley, and, you know, we danced like Elvis and we talked like, you know, we dress up like Marlon Brando. People of, you know, that so American culture in the 50s and 60s, it was big in Libya. Yeah. And one of the reasons, of course, one of the reasons for America being culture and art being big in Libya, we had an American base in Libya. The largest American base outside the United States was in Libya. Wheelas Air Base was west of Libya. They had a big complex And I remember when I was in college, we used to go and attend concerts of artists from the United States coming and, you know, entertaining the troops, let's say, and the Air Force. So in any case, but the Europeans, of course, because of the history, you know, and our food also. Our food is a mix of European and Greek, Italian, you know, and there is no week that goes by in Libya that you don't eat pasta. Pasta is one. You know, then Greek salad is, you know, they call it, of course, probably they don't refer to it as Greek, but the salad, the soup, the minestrone soup, that's something is given. There is a whole month of a year in Libya, which is the fasting month, which they drink, they eat soup, which is similar to the minestrone soup, almost every night. So you know, our culture is very, very, because of our unique, I think, position geographically, we're a mix. We're a mix of all of this Southern Europe, west of and south of Africa, and of course the Egyptian culture has tremendous influence on Libya. Okay, artistically, educationally, you know, we basically made Egypt like a model to follow, because they were way ahead of Libya in education and art and, you know, things like that. So. I hope I answered your question. You had another question about women.
Yes, I would like to know about women, because we saw Afghanistan sometime when America went there and we opened that door to see inside. So is it the same in Libya?
You know, you're talking about Afghanistan, which is here. Is it? Is that Afghanistan? Well, I don't know.
Around
somewhere here. Okay, and Libya, which is here. You're talking about, let's say, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 miles away.
Okay.
No, it's, our culture is very, very different.
I meant women in the third world.
No, I understand. Okay, women in Libya, as I mentioned before, the literacy in Libya for women is like 70%. So 7 out of 10 women, read and write. When we say literacy, not high education, just read and write.
Big difference.
Okay, now, the reason is because, as we said before, most of the population is under the age of 25. And since school is compulsory between the age of 6 and 14, okay, then you would have to be in school.
Yes.
That's why you have a very high percentage of literacy in Libya. For men, as I mentioned before,
so
it's 90%.
Have to, still, boy there is, or girl?
Yeah, there is still that gap. There is a 20% differential between the literacy in men and literacy in women. Okay. But still, I think they're catching up. Okay. And I think there is also there is another fact in Libya that men are predominantly in number than women. It's unusual. Okay, yes. It's like 48% or 49% women to 52 or 51% men. Okay, in my family, we have more, you know, I think it's predominantly men. There are very few women.
This is unusual, really.
Yes. I don't know what the reason.
What, I'm trying to figure it out. That's why I laugh.
My dad's family, I have 9 brothers and 3 sisters only. Okay, mashallah. Yeah. It's a big and then
family.
my brothers, I have a brother who had 13 kids, and I think they're mainly boys.
That's great to have mainly boys, but the idea usually
it's usually the other way around.
Yeah, yes. They said men go to war or something.
Well, Libya
so that's why.
Libya doesn't go to war.
They don't go to war first, or if the woman goes to war, it has to have something.
There is a story, but I don't. Maybe we'll share it with you later on about women and men fighting a war, as a matter of fact, in history. And actually, there is a portion in Libya, in the Ghadames area, which is like above the sub-Sahara. Okay, just above. There is a story that my dad told me, because there is a picture that I have, I may want to share with you, of men veiled. Women in that tribe are not veiled. The men are veiled. One of the reasons I always thought, because I always thought men are veiled because they travel and the desert, you know, and all of that. So they protect themselves by wearing a veil because they put a veil. But I asked my dad. I remember when and he said no. The reason that men were fighting another tribe and they used to go to war and lose. Every time they go to war, lose. The women at one time told them, why don't you stay and we'll go do this fight.
Okay.
They went in the first fight and they won it.
So
they,
my guess was right.
That's it.
Okay.
So the men now are veiled. They still till today. They are veiled and women are not veiled in that portion of of Libya. Okay, but to talk about women, I know the way I was raised, and this was like, I think it should have been improved tremendously now. We were equal in our family. There was really no discrimination against females.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and until today, I mean, I have a lot of respect for, of course, my sisters and, you know, my other female members of the family. You know, chauvinism is there, it's by nature. You know, the man is dominant because I don't know for what, but this is internationally.
I believe so.
It's universal. You know, but there is, I think, you know, I have some of my nieces, and you know, they're studying abroad alone. You know, they go and no family members with them. So there is some kind of freedom, you know, in a way. I hope there is no religion
type up against women.
Religion?
Usually, you mentioned that a woman go study by herself. Religion side, they stop that.
I don't want to get into religion because religion to me is between you and.
No, I mean in Libya.
You know, of course, it's a religion, but there is only one religion in Libya.
Okay.
Okay, so there is not a big problem. There is also one thing that I'd like to mention, because Libya, I said about the languages spoken in Libya, but how about the people in Libya? There is another segment in Libya that we call Berber, with the original inhabitants of Libya, Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, that they still live there and speak their own language. So when I spoke about Libyans speaking Arabic, there are also another portion of Libyans who speak all other languages, but Berber also.
Not Arabic.
They speak Arabic, but they have their own. At home, they speak their own language.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a big segment in the mountains, western mountains of Libya, of the Berbers who live, and part of Libya. My best friends were from, you know, that went to school with them, were from that.
That's good. That's good. Something maybe I mentioned before we go about women. I guess the president, Muammar Gaddafi's daughter, she is a lawyer.
I understand she's an attorney, yes.
And another thing, I guess, something different than the whole world maybe, Muammar Gaddafi's secret service are women, is it right?
From what I see, yes. The security. His security personnel are women. Yeah, he goes, I guess, with an entourage of women.
Maybe they are stronger in certain ways.
Yeah,
since they did war, went to war
and they won.
Historically, that means something, you know. Okay. Anyway, actually, I had a good time with you, and you gave me a lot of information new for me too. And I hope my viewers enjoy that time with you. And I would like to thank you on behalf of my viewers and myself. Thank you, Dr. Hassan.
Thank you very much, Madam Kabbani, for having me. And I would like to extend my thanks for the viewers who hopefully will watch this. And if you need more, we're available. Okay, we think we're going to probably break this into 2 segments, or maybe 1 segment, whichever.
We'll see.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that maybe by the time I come back from the Washington trip and in October, and then from my trip to Libya in November, the end of November, December, then hopefully maybe you will come with me. That we will have another session, you know, to talk about, because I haven't been back for a long, long time, 14 years now. I want to go back and see, you know, because right now I'm just researching it from, you know, information that my family sent me or maybe from the web. But nevertheless, there is, if you need more information about Libya, check this website, www.libyaonline.com, or Libya Our Home, www.Libya Our Home. There's a lot of information that you may, and photos and things like this, and slides, and about the culture and the. Let me go here. Are we done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That was Dr. Hassan Sassi, and until we see you next time, I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you.